Welcome to Circle City Conversations, where the heart of Indianapolis comes alive through the stories of its people. Join us as we explore our city, one insightful conversation at a time.
Welcome, everyone, to Circle City Conversations, where Indianapolis comes alive through the stories of its people. Join us as we explore our city, one insightful conversation at a time. So we launched the show yesterday, episode 1 with Mark Lopez.
Oh, yeah.
You know Mark. And before we get into it, just want to thank our sponsor, Hearst Lamontes, an Indiana law firm representing injured Hoosiers and their families for over 50 years. The lawyers at Hearst Lamontes have dedicated their careers to putting their clients first. So I'm here with Kate Franke of Broadwing Legal. Kate is my friend.
Yes.
Yeah. And a trial lawyer who, like me, helps people seek justice. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm glad we were talking earlier about, some of our history together. We've known each other for a long time, right?
Yeah. I think we're figuring out it's been over 10 years now.
Yeah. So when you were working over with Lee Christie at his office.
Yeah.
So I was actually just there. Emmanuel was there with me too. Yesterday, we shot a promo video for the fundraiser that the Women's Caucus is doing for the Coburn House.
Oh, yeah, for ITLA.
Yeah, for ITLA. Yeah. So we shot that yesterday, and hopefully we can raise some money because we've worked with the Coburn House before. We got, I think it was over thousands of diapers we were able to donate to them last year.
It's such a great cause out there. I mean, it's such a good organization to have in Indianapolis. So, I'm glad that the Women's Caucus has picked that up as their beneficiary of their campaign this year.
Well, and they really do in my opinion, a lot of great work in the community.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They focus on a group or an organization, and they go all in.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Katie Marshall yesterday, and she said that the Coburn House told her that this is some of the best, the biggest showing that they've seen of support from our organization, from ITLA.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have a really good event or get a lot of funds for them so that they can really benefit from this.
Yeah. So, and you can see that on the Amazon wish list. But anyways, let's start.
Okay.
Let's chat. All right. So I know the answer to some of these questions because we've known each other for 12 years. But let's just start from the very beginning. Where are you from?
I am from Columbus, Indiana is where I was pretty much born or raised. I was born down in Evansville, but I grew up in Columbus, Indiana, and graduated high school from there.
You were in the band, weren't you?
I was.
Yes.
I was actually. I played oboe in band, which is something you can't really march with. So I also did the color guard. So I was in band year round and in color guard year round. So I was so busy with all that stuff. It was great. I totally kept me out of trouble, I'm sure.
Right. Was there an fast outfit change, like color guard over to, band uniform?
Oh, no. Thankfully not that. So I just had to do concert band.
Okay.
So when I was in marching season, I was always in the color guard.
Oh, okay.
But then we had winter competitions with the color guard on basketball courts. And then I think my senior year, I was in the concert band, the orchestra, the color guard, the winter guard. And I had 4 letters in band. It was a little crazy.
That's funny. So what high school?
Columbus North.
Okay. Columbus North.
Yeah.
All right. So you graduate high school. Where'd you go to college?
I went to DePaul University in Greencastle.
Oh, another DePaul grad.
Yeah.
What are they? The Tigers?
Yeah, we're the Tigers.
Tigers. Yeah. I'm a Hanover guy. So, but we did play them in football. And then Mark Lopez is a DePaul person. Did you go to school with Mark?
I did, but I didn't know Mark while I was at DePaul, actually.
It's a bigger small school, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think there were about 2,500 students on the campus when I was there.
Right.
So, I mean, my class was 500.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then you graduate from DePaul and what made you decide I want to be a lawyer? I want to go to law school.
I kind of grew up around lawyers. So I'm not a lawyer kid, but my mom is what's called a life care planner.
Mm-hmm.
And so her job was to work on these catastrophic injury cases and do the cost projections forward on how much it would cost a person to have all their medical care taken care of for the rest of their life. And she was also a vocational expert. So she would be addressing things like if they could go back to their job or not, or if they could take the skills they had before and go into some new job with that. And so she was always around lawyers, and she would always want to introduce me to them. Like, she was very big on take your daughter to work day kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so she always introduced me to strong female lawyers, and really encouraged that when she found out I wanted to do it, to the point where she even was talking to a local lawyer in my hometown and said, you know, Kate's thinking about going to law school. And I'm in high school at this point in time. Yeah. I'm like 16 years old. And that attorney is Rich Enan. And Rich Enan was like, well, then I want to have dinner with Kate. And so from there, Rich just mentored me.
Wow.
I mean, starting in high school, all the way through undergrad, all the way through law school, Rich was like such an amazing person to talk to and to be there for me and really help me like realize what I was going to need to be successful, not only through school, but even as a lawyer now.
Yeah.
And he's personal injury lawyer.
Yeah. So you grew up around personal injury lawyers.
Yeah.
So are you surprised now that you are a personal injury trial lawyer?
Yeah. When I went to law school, I was not planning on being a personal injury lawyer. I wanted to be a government attorney.
Really?
Yeah. So like when I was in law school, I did an internship for the Federal Highways Administration. Okay. Even I thought, you know, I want to be a government attorney. I want to be like making sure like the contracts that the government's entering into are good and perspective. Like I always thought I was going to be a forward thinking lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I did that internship and I was bored out of my mind.
Oh my God.
And I came back for my third year of law school and I started taking trial practice classes and started having so much fun with that. And I was like, okay, we're going to shift here. And I worked for a judge, and she was civil court judge. She had a lot of trials. She was always very good about having me watch her trials. And so it was just like, okay, this looks like so much more fun.
Yeah.
And so that's when the shift kind of happened. And I was like, okay, maybe personal injury is the area I'm going to go into.
Well, that's like a really great kind of well-rounded perspective or view. I mean, you did government work. You saw, I didn't want to, you know, I don't like doing this. You worked with a judge. So you saw that side of it, the judicial aspect of it, you know, and then you found your calling working with people that were hurt or worse.
Yeah. Well, actually, I started off as a defense attorney.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's all right. We won't hold it.
It was less than 4 years. So no, but even that group, my first law firm that I hired in with, they were a wonderful group. Mm-hmm. And they really taught me medical malpractice and how to look at medical malpractice cases.
Yeah. It's, we have a lawyer here that worked down in Florida, and, you know, I've litigated cases in bigger cities, and it is a very collegial atmosphere, you know, between us and the defense bar. It almost kind of has to be, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to see these people over and over again. We're not like a big, massive group.
Right. Right. Yeah. And when I was talking to Mark about it, you know, you're going to need favors for other clients in the future.
Yeah.
And who's to say that you're not already calling in favors for that client?
Yeah.
You know, the current client. So I've had cases where, you know, a client's, you know, been a little bit standoffish about the fact that I have a good relationship with the defense attorney. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Not really, but you know, every case is different.
Right. So yeah, let's talk about some cases. Okay. Well, actually, no, let's backtrack. After you graduated from law school, you said you worked for a defense firm.
I did.
And then what'd you do after that?
And then I started working for Lee Christie.
Yeah.
It was originally Klein, Farrell, Christie, Lee, and Caress. So Tim Caress and Lee Christie hired me onto their team. And then when Tim left to start his own firm, I stayed on with Lee and worked for Lee until, what was it, through 2021.
So you did try a case at that office. It was like a garage door case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. I just thought that was so cool.
Oh my gosh, that case. Those clients are amazing clients that we had. Ralph and Cheryl Parker They, you know, it was a hard case because what we had was an electrician in a commercial building. And what Ralph was doing was he was updating the electrical to get the garage sold, the building sold.
Yeah.
And
like commercial sized doors.
Yeah. I mean, like a big, huge 16-foot door.
Okay.
And this door was like 50 years old. I mean, it's really old, very heavy. And so when you think about a garage door at your house and you have like the little red light sensors on the bottom, it didn't even have those.
Oh.
So the safety mechanism on that garage door was a clutch on it. And like the tighter you make the clutch, the harder it is to get the door to slip and release. So if it hits an obstruction going down or up, the clutch is supposed to slip and stop the door. And in our case, they had the garage door worked on, that motor worked on like a week ahead of time before our guy was in there. And he tightened the clutch all the way down.
Okay.
And so when my guy's mapping out the electrical, he touched the bell wire, which is like a really low volt wire, to see where it went in his mapping. And it triggered the door, like there was a short and it triggered the door, and the door came up on him and pinned him between the top of the door and a rafter.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the clutch was so tight that it eventually, Ralph passed out, the belt burnt out and released the door and dropped Ralph to the ground, and he became a quad.
He fell how many feet?
Like 16 feet. Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He was at the top of that door coming up on the track. So
did you have an argument? Did you have to deal with the fall or the door crushing him? Like what was really kind of what caused the injury?
The fall was what caused the injury. So a lot of our argument was that if the clutch had slipped, that Ralph may have been injured, but he would have been awake and he would have been able to help control his movements.
Slip out instead of fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the verdict on that?
I think it was over $26 million on the verdict. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. It was a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And two very good defense attorneys on that. So, you know, it was a well fought, hard earned jury award. Yeah.
Well, and I love how the first thing you remember is the clients, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
The people, that's why you did it. Like frankly, I think that's how you get those kind of results.
Yeah. I mean,
have to
like
believe in them.
When you have clients that are in this position where they are hurt through actions that they had no control over, you know, being able to help them and to help them get justice and be able to move forward with their life, because life's never going to be the same for them regardless. Just to be able to help guide them through those waters is a gift.
Right.
I mean, that's why we do what we do.
Exactly.
Every day I get to know that my sole mission in life is to help other people.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, it's like, I love my job because of that. It's hard and it's stressful, and you see things that you wish you never saw.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you can help somebody improve their life and to help them through probably what is going to be one of the hardest times of their life, if not the hardest time in their life, it's such a blessing.
Right. Right. Well, I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, so
I know you feel the same way.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you got to love what you do. And I mean, you know, when I started working with Bill, he told me, he's like, your focus should be on helping these people, help them, and then everything else will fall into place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, all right. So you worked at Lee Christie's office, and the different iterations of it, and then you went out on your own, right?
I did.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that, Broadwing Legal.
Yeah. So in 2021, I started working with an executive coach, and we started exploring like what I was seeing for myself, not just in the immediate future, but 10 years, 15 years down the road. And at the end of the day, I decided, you know, I want to try to build something different. You know, I love Lee's office. I love the people there. They're a great office. But I just wanted to try some different things. And I really wanted to start being just a first chair, not a first chair and a second chair.
Right.
Because, you know, I was ready for that. Like the experience, it was time for me to step into that role. And so, and I like technology. Like
Oh, yeah, you do.
I know. I do technology presentations. Yeah. I really try to embrace it. And, I felt like if I could build something from the ground up based in technology, based in, some different ideas I had on how to work up cases, that I could hopefully build the next kind of legacy firm in Indianapolis, people know Klein, Farrell, Christie, and Lee.
Right.
And Bell. And they know Lee, and they know Tina, and they know Lance Klein. I want to be just as well known as they are, with that same kind of wonderful reputation that they have. Yeah.
And, I think that what's like you said, you wanted to do something different. And even just from the very beginning, from the name itself, what do we normally do? I mean, look at me. I put my name on the building or on the firm, like that's what the old lawyers do, but you were like, no, I'm going to try something different.
Yeah. We went with the trade name.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me what went into that process.
So my last name is Franke, and
before that it was
hyphenated. Yeah. So I've always had a difficult last name. And so Franke, people want to put an I before the E, and there's no I in it. And so I was like, I'm going to spend all my time spelling.
Spelling it out.
Oh
my gosh. You sound like, I feel like that's me.
Yeah. And, I wanted something that people could remember easily.
Yeah.
And not be like, what's the name of that person? Like something a little bit more unique, easy to spell, easy to remember. And so we decided to do a trade name. And by we, I mean my husband and I, because he's the person that helped me do the trade name. And so we decided we would look for things that had kind of a Indiana connection to it somehow. And we ended up naming the firm after the Broadwing Hawks in our backyard.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Your husband is a very successful realtor.
He is. Yeah. He's with Breed and Century 21 down in Columbus.
Yeah.
And which is, I think the largest maybe realty group down in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that area. It's so beautiful.
It is.
Like this time of the year, October.
Yeah.
I would probably not want to leave. I got to go into Indy again.
Well, we do have a satellite office in Columbus as well. So that helps. So we have the office in Indy. We have a satellite in Columbus. And but I don't know if you know this, but my family is some of the original immigrants to Brown County.
Really?
Yeah.
From where?
Mostly from the England, northern France area.
Okay. Yeah.
Some Scottish in there, but so we actually, my mom has a piece of land out in Brown County that that has been in our family from the original grant from the U.S. government.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Brown County, for anyone listening that hasn't been to Brown, need to go.
Oh my gosh. That state park alone is worth the drive.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you start Broadwing Legal and you're a solo, right?
I'm a solo right now. Yeah.
Yeah. When you started it, what were some of the initial kind of growing pains, issues that maybe you dealt with that didn't anticipate, what were some of the things that you had to some of the hurdles you had to overcome? Yeah.
So I realized how grateful I was for our office manager at the old firm, for sure. Because when you're doing all the finances yourself, you're doing all the contracts for all the different vendors you need.
Yeah.
And, you're doing, writing all the checks and all that stuff. It takes up a lot more time in the marketing side of stuff.
Yeah.
It takes up a lot more time than you ever thought. And you're like, oh, I used to just get to be a lawyer all day long.
Right.
And now I'm a lawyer part of the day and I'm a business owner part of the day. And
yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah. Wearing the entrepreneur hat has taken some time to get used to, for sure.
Well, and it's, and I say this all the time. I'm like, I went to law school to be a lawyer. I love being a lawyer. I love being in a courtroom. I love telling stories, my clients' stories. I do the business stuff because we have to.
Yeah. That's part of the necessary part of keeping a law office open.
Exactly. So if you could give, let's say someone is graduating law school and they're like, I want to hang out my shingle.
Yeah.
And you could give them one or maybe two pieces of advice.
So one piece of advice I would say is there's a Facebook group on it's called Lawyers on the Beach. And it's led me to some different other groups, but that group is all about pretty much being a solo attorney, like what technology is going to help you, what you need. Like there are people on there that help consult with solos in marketing, and you can find a wealth of information on any practice area, really. And the people there are so willing to help you, which is so great, which is, one of the things I like about ITLA is the community and that part of it. So, I mean, like finding groups like that would be my first recommendation, because ITLA is wonderful too, if you want to go in the personal injury realm for sure.
Or, Indie Bar too.
Yeah. Indie Bar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you're here in Indiana. Or
yeah.
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would say is like network your butt off.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to, because that is going to be the way you're going to get found quickly.
Yeah.
You're not going to come in with a website with 500 pages to it and, the phone's ringing off the hook.
No.
You have to get yourself out there.
Yeah.
And you're going to get there with the other side of stuff, but your competition already has that.
Yeah. Yes.
And they have big budgets. Mm-hmm. And so, networking, getting people to like you, just talk to you, get them to know you, has been so effective on, just growing the business quickly. Yeah.
And another, I mean, if there's anyone younger than, a new lawyer, you should start networking as early as you can in law school, right?
Yeah.
You can do it.
And I think this is some of the mistakes some of my peers made was they treated law school like it was undergrad and that these weren't going to be their work peers later on,
Right.
Your reputation starts day one in law school.
Yeah. Yeah. See, luckily for me, I had a group of friends from Hanover and they already knew how much of an idiot I could be. So I didn't have to act like that in front of my law school friends. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about Broadwing Legal, kind of what you do there, the kind of people you help, who you represent.
So obviously plaintiffs only side.
Yeah.
So I do a mixture of, I guess, what are called single event cases, where it's either a car crash, a trucking crash, a slip and fall, dog bite, medical malpractice. Those are kind of my main areas that I'm working in. A little like some products liability kind of stuff, but it's got to be the right kind of case, because a lot of times if it's a product that's having lots of problems, there are much more specialized firms handling those. And I'll try to help you find that firm, but it's not going to be something I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to try to be better than somebody that's already figured out the whole entire case. Let's get you to the right people.
You made a good point about helping it. We tell our clients, for example, if we can't help you, we'll find you someone that can.
Yeah.
And you served for a while with the AAJ.
I did.
Board of Governors, right? Tell me a little bit about the AAJ and maybe how that's helped you with your networking, with your building your relationships and building Broadwing Legal.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate to be named to the Board of Governors as kind of like a revitalization member to help get younger people into the organization. And so I was Indiana's person for that. Mm-hmm. And from a networking perspective, it was awesome. I got to meet attorneys from all across the country doing the exact same stuff. And we ended up like some of these people, I've gotten cases from them when they have, especially with like trucking cases, you have so many trucks coming through Indiana. We have all the crossroads of America, and, they'll say, hey, I've got a client who got involved in a crash in Indiana, but they're from my home state of Texas.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, great. And I'm the person that they think of because they've met me at AAJ. And we've done committees together through AAJ. Because even now, even though I'm not on the Board of Governors anymore, I got too old for that role. And our other representatives are wonderful. I'm still like working on stuff with different committees in AAJ so that I can continue to be involved in it, because I think it's a great organization.
Yeah. So AAJ, American Association of Justice, right? For Justice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned trucking.
Yes.
All right. And you Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about it.
Okay.
But I want to talk to you more about your experiences that aren't just like, sitting down and reading trucking law and stuff. Haven't you done a trucking course?
Yeah.
And done some really cool stuff like that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I'm a part of an organization called the Academy of Truck Accident Attorneys. Mm-hmm. And they do this program called the Mother Truckers.
I love it.
And it's a bunch of girls driving tractor trailers.
Oh, that's great.
And the one I did was out in Montana with the Legacy Trucking Company. So this is an actual trucking company that teaches drivers every day. Like that's what they do. And we got behind the wheel of the tractors, and we were driving. Now, we weren't out on roads,
right?
But we were driving on a drag strip at one point in time, trying to see how fast we felt comfortable. I will tell you, until you actually drive one of those, you really don't fully understand how difficult of a job that is.
Yeah.
That's a hard job.
Yeah.
But it's also one that's the reason why these are professional drivers.
Exactly. And it's not like you did CDL training. I mean, it was like a very basic.
Yeah. It was like we were doing it for 3 days.
Yeah. So, and that's a really like cool perspective, I think, that you can bring, the fact that you've done some training.
Yeah. Well, I find though that I get really angry now when I see truckers do things that are really simple to do and have a good safety purpose to them, and they're just not doing it. So like for me, it's the orange triangles. So if you see a tractor trailer broken down on the side of the road, most of the time on the interstate, they have these, it's required by federal law, 3 orange triangles. You have to put them at 10 feet, 100 feet, and 200 feet behind your truck.
Why do they require?
Because it sends a visual cue to other drivers on the road that you're parked in that lane. And also, like, if you think about it, if they hit one of those, it's going to make a sound. And if that will let them know that they've come into a lane area where there's a hazard in front of them.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, that's why you're going 200 feet back.
Yeah. 200 feet.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
But guess how long it takes to put those out?
I couldn't imagine.
We all had to do it. It took me 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
To find them in the truck, get out of the truck, walk out, do my pacing, and go back and climb back into the truck was 1 minute and 20 seconds for me. And so I see these trucks in the emergency lane all the time without their triangles out.
Oh, are you going to start pulling over and momming them? Hey, get your triangles out.
I know and we have a lack of parking for these tractor trailers in Indiana.
Yeah.
It's a problem. So what they end up doing is parking on the entrance and exit ramps in the emergency lane.
Oh, okay.
And I've had cases where we had a horrible case where this young girl was driving out to Terre Haute to do her interview for her master's program, hydroplaned, and hit the back of a tractor that was parked illegally because the guy had nowhere else to park and he was sleeping in the cab.
Oh,
and it killed her.
Oh, that's so sad.
But if he hadn't been there, it was just a big, huge grassy field off to the side.
Is there any obligation on the highway department, to make sure that there is sufficient parking, or, it's just probably a lack of funding?
It's probably, land use. I mean, because you think about it, it's the rest areas and the truck stops that they have to stop and rest at. But, in a way, it's also on the trucking companies to properly map out their routes for their drivers. Now, there are things that happen, weather happens, that can cause delays, traffic accidents happen, and that digs into the driver's drive time. But a lot of these, they just feel it's such a big problem. It feels like there should be something, especially with GPS and routing and satellites that we have going on right now, that they should be able to do a better job at preventing that.
So you did make a really good point. You mentioned the companies, right? Because these truckers, they're not all owner operators, right?
That's right.
And excuse me. And so I want to talk a little bit more about these trucking cases. I've had some people approach me and almost simplify them like car v car crash.
Oh, no.
And it's not just an individual, missing a red light or, being negligent versus another individual. There's a whole nother layer, actually multiple layers that really complicate the case, and I've seen a lot of great trial lawyers really get into the companies because of their policies. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So training is a big, huge thing.
Okay.
There's currently a shortage of truck drivers in the United States. We're about 50,000. We need about 50,000 additional truck drivers.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a huge shortage. But what that means is that we're putting young and experienced drivers on the road very quickly. And, in the past, you would see almost like an apprenticeship going on where you would get your drivers, you'd start at a company, and as a young driver, you would get an older experienced driver going with you to make sure, checking you out and making sure that you have the right skills and giving you tips along the way. And you're not seeing that as much. The training has gone down with some of these companies. And, some of these companies are small trucking companies. They may have 4 tractors, and they're not thinking about training.
They're trying to make money.
They're just trying to make money as best they can.
Yeah.
Because they are leasing equipment and they're trying to pay their bills. Yeah.
I wonder if the trucking industry is seeing a lot of the same things that, a lot of industries are seeing now. It's almost like in the legal industry, for example, there's medium firms are either getting bigger or smaller.
Yeah, you do kind of see some of that, but we've seen some big bankruptcies here recently too.
Really?
I think Yellow Cab was one of the recent ones, and so that affects things as well.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about these companies, there's the reason why we have the Federal Motor Safety Carrier regulations is because that at least sets a minimum bar of training for these individuals. But we're seeing trucking companies not even meet that bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh. Some of the things that you do, we've worked with you before. You've helped us with focus groups, jury trial consulting.
Yeah.
One of the cases you helped us with, we realized how bad of a case it actually was, which was great because we were able to take that information to the client, so because it's not coming from us. These are people that could potentially be jurors. So let's talk a little bit more about that. It's not really a traditional legal service, No,
and I'm still and I would consider myself kind of an amateur at it still. There are definitely some attorneys and non-attorneys that do jury consulting on a much higher level than what I do. Mine has kind of just been more of I'm super interested in this.
Yeah.
I love the neuroscience behind how we make decisions as humans. And so I started doing this with my old firm. We were just running our own focus groups at time and seeing what would happen because, there are cases that you can justify having the big nationally recognized professional to them.
Yeah.
But then some of the cases are smaller cases. And that's where I feel like you and I started working on some stuff. And I've worked with some other attorneys on some smaller cases where you just can't afford the big time consultant because the case is never going to have enough money to justify that cost.
Right.
So you don't want to, because it comes out of the client's pocket at the end of the day.
And that's what, I mean, at the end of the day, as inhumane maybe as this may sound, we really only have one purpose is to maximize whatever money we can get them. And, when I tell clients, I'm like, it's apples to oranges, really. What happened. I can't change that. And what I'm getting you is money, and it's a poor substitute.
It is. It totally is. Yeah.
And we have to, stamp that business decision on. Yeah.
But at the same time, our job is to get them the most that we can.
Yeah.
Because that's all we can give them.
Right.
And so, so with the jury consulting work, it's fun for me because not only am I getting to work on my own cases, but I'm getting to see other people's cases as well.
Yeah.
And I've just tried to take in everything I've learned from the nationally recognized jury consultants, Amy Pardick here in Indiana.
She's great.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I wish I could work with her on every single one, but it's you just can't justify the cost all the time. So, something I just kind of nerded out on and got into a little.
Yeah. What's your, well, no, this is at what point, and just in your opinion, at what point through the course of the trial do you think that most jurors have kind of made their money?
Oh, gosh. If you look at the science, it's usually by the time opening statements are done.
by the time they're done.
Yeah.
That's what that's the Keith Mitnick kind of approach there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
spending an inordinate amount of time on jury selection and on opening statements is really where I seem to focus on now, even though like the examinations are all really important and closing's very important. But if your chance to make a good first impression only happens once.
Yes.
So you gotta hit it out of the ballpark from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have, I remember you provided it to me, like a little binder with strikes for cause.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did you tried a case with Kathy, right?
Tried a case with Kathy Lee, and she ended up with, I think it was 15 jurors struck.
Wow.
Yeah. My last trial, I had 6.
6? What county was that in?
That was in Vanderburgh County.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
It was really, it's a method that Kathy taught me.
Yeah.
And it works. And that binder was like,
it's like the Bible.
It's kind of gold. And Tina Bell did put that binder together. I'm going to give her credit for it for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that's one of the things I actually miss about being with other attorneys in my law practice is that camaraderie and the ability to share information with each other on that. But I've been very lucky because I've had people like you and Amy Davis and Mark Lopez and Jameson Allen and Betsy Green all come in and say, we're going to help you fill that void that you're missing now.
Yeah. No, we all, like I said, it's very collegial. We all work.
Yeah.
So, as far as like influential people that have, some people call them mentors, let's talk about, maybe a couple.
Well, Rich Enon for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be where I was without him.
Yeah.
He was just an amazing mentor to me. I mean, even now we still,
really,
when we see each other, we hug, we talk. He sends me letters when he hears about my big wins. Yeah. And I keep them.
Letters. Yeah. Like handwritten letters.
Usually typed, but signed. Yeah.
That's great.
But, talk about a kind-hearted person. And my goal has always been to pay it forward. Yeah. In the way that Rich gave it to me. Yeah. Because it was just amazing. Like I went to Valpo because of Rich. That was his alma mater. Yeah. And he knew that I liked a smaller community. Yeah. I'm not a city girl. I work in the city now, but I grew up in a smaller town and not a tiny town, but and then I went to a small school. Yeah. And so he's like, this is going to be where you're going to flourish. And he was right. Yeah. He was right the entire time.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. Anyone else?
Probably just my mom.
Your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get absorb a lot of medical stuff, medical knowledge from her? Because you have a lot more medical knowledge than I do.
Well, no, my medical knowledge came from Becky Buchanan, who was one of the first defense attorneys I worked with. Okay. And she was a nurse, and she sat me down and she taught me how to read a medical chart, and she taught me how to find the issues. Yeah. And she was a wonderful mentor too. But my mom was always working with disabled. Yeah. Even before she was a life care planner, she worked for the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. And she taught me the respect that people deserve. Yeah. And that you get so much more enjoyment out of life when you get to know somebody. Right. And not to judge a book by their cover. Yes. So it's funny because my sister is an interpreter for the deaf. I'm a personal injury lawyer. The influence is big there. Yeah. 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 Well, she sounds like a really smart. She was. And a single mom working up in Indianapolis every single day, commuting up there. Yeah. And really being a good example, always making sure that we understood that our path to success in life would be to work hard in school and have a good work ethic. And that's going to get you a lot farther than anything else. Yeah. Yeah. So where can people, what's next? What's next for Broadwing Legal? Oh my goodness. I don't know. We're growing. Yeah. My staff has been growing. at the beginning of the new year, we have some new plans for even more growth.
Good.
So that's been the great part about it is, we're doing some marketing, but it's been so busy that I can't market too much right now.
Right.
Because it's still just me as the one lawyer at this point in time. But, it's going to be continuing to embrace technology. I'm doing a lot of studying on the whole role of AI in the legal industry because it needs to be, you have to embrace it. It's going to be the change that's going to happen. So better to learn it earlier rather than later.
Yeah. Where can people go to learn more about Broadwing Legal and you? Yeah.
So the website is very easy, www.broadwinglegal.com.
Okay.
Very easy to Google. And that's all done on purpose. And and then if you just Google my name, Kate Franke, you'll find a whole wealth of information on me as well. And all the stuff I've been involved in.
Well, Kate, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been fun. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Circle City Conversations podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out for more future conversations.
Thanks for listening to the Circle City Conversations podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more future conversations.